The disgraced one-term, twice impeached, criminally convicted president.
Let's watch Australian Broadcasting Corporation, or ABC News Australia, go from excited to devastated on election night. There is a ton of funny stuff in this one.
And a discussion which is all centred around, I don't know, kind of golf games and genitalia.
There's a lot of bro talk, isn't there?
A lot of bro talk, ripping open of the shirts and revealing muscles. But
let's go. Shout out to Hulk Hogan.
And they tried to kill the next president of the United States. Enough was enough. And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother.
You'll see moving forward a little bit, this woman brings up sort of women's issues quite a few times. It almost sounds like she's talking more about feminism than analyzing an election.
You have a black woman who's the daughter of immigrants up against a white man with a long track record of racism and misogyny. Who launched...
I mean, are we not off to quite the start here? We're like just a short while into the stream, already some ridiculous analysis happening here.
You have the prosecutor against the felon. You have somebody who really believes in the sanctity of the U.S.
The felon, oh my gosh.
We have never had an election like this where mainstream media is just not as important as it has been.
Don't tell us that, Sarah.
Well, we still...
Pretty funny, just kind of calls them out to their face by accident.
Shape to a certain extent the news that people consume. I mean, it's not, we're not dead, but the point is a little bit on life support in the sense that people are going to TikTok, Instagram, to their podcasts.
They are, and I want to highlight quickly one media appearance Trump did, I think, that's very underrated. His appearance with Aiden Ross. Trump was dancing, kind of showing himself for sure to be way more cool than Democrats. I can't prove this. I think that appearance with Aiden Ross made a difference with Gen Z.
You know, shows like yours. So I have a son who's very smart and tall, Barron, right? And he knows all about you. He knows about guys I never heard of. He said, Dad, you don't know how big they are. They're big. You know, he told me how big. I said, who the hell is he? Like Ross. I did. He said, Dad, he's a great guy. I mean, guys that are doing... It's a whole new world out there.
From college campuses to urban voting lines, a sizable shift red from one of the most reliably blue voting blocs. President-elect Trump cutting deeply into first-time voters and the youth vote.
People didn't fully understand or recognise her capabilities. That was part of the bump that she got. There was people like, oh, actually, she can talk really well. She can debate really well.
She doesn't just laugh.
She's very competent. Yeah.
She can talk really well, maybe compared to Biden, but we all saw a bunch of interviews of her not doing that well.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
The amount of sexism that she's had to deal with has actually also been stunning. The slurs on how she slept her way to the top, which has been tweeted by presidential candidates. The suggestion that does she have enough of an IQ? The B word's been used a lot.
It sounds like feminist theory or something. Sexism, like if you're running for president, you're going to be criticized a ton, obviously, and you should be. It's the most powerful job in the world. What are people not going to criticize her because she's a woman?
And then you had this kind of hate fest of kind of racism and misogyny, hardly any female speakers at all. And I think if Trump loses, we'll look at that as the moment maybe where he lost it. Certainly.
But he won. I hope liberals keep that attitude. It's going to be very difficult for them to win by doing that. You're just shutting off so many independent-minded people.
I've heard from people who are on the ground campaigning for Kamala Harris who say there's been an absolute sea change between the weekend before the Madison Square Garden rally and the weekend after.
I don't buy that, but imagine if that was true, that there was like this sea change. Would Trump before have won like 400 electoral votes?
I was just going to say, we'll be crossing to some guests a bit later on in the program, people who can speak to voting today as multiracial Americans. Simon, I want to bring in...
Watch the way he asks this question.
That point about multiracial America. There are still those who are, you know, with multiracial backgrounds who do support Donald Trump. Why is that?
Like, the way he said that, why do multiracial Americans support Donald Trump? I don't know. They think for themselves and they like his policies more than the left? It's such an obvious thing to even say. What do you mean, like, why do they vote for Trump?
There's definitely been a change in the atmospherics the last few days. I think that has shown Harris up. I think Trump's vote has maxed out at 47% or so.
Really? Let's take a look at that. Trump, 49.8%, certainly above maxing out at 47.
Why do you think he might have maxed out? Was it too angry at the end?
I think he maxes out around 47%.
That's the ceiling.
Yeah. Right. And he has a high base, and that's his ceiling as well.
He has a high base and a higher ceiling than at least you think. 49.8%. That's the official tally.
Donald Trump is set to easily win the popular vote, which hasn't been done for more than 2 decades in terms of the Republicans.
But the reality is she has finished quite strongly, and she has shown that she's a much stronger candidate than a lot of people expected when she got the nomination.
Do all these people actually believe this? So many people in media were hyping Kamala up. Oh, she's a great candidate. She ran a great campaign.
This really was an historic, flawlessly run campaign.
Do you think in private they actually think this? Or this was just a thing they all thought they had to say on television for whatever reason?
I think that she ran a flawless campaign, and I maintain that.
The January 6th insurrection.
Just a reminder for everyone for what had happened there a couple of years previous.
Well, Donald Trump was faced by a mosh pit of MAGA hordes, and he urged them to converge on the Capitol.
Look, we're not even that far into this stream yet. Is this election analysis, or is this just a anti-Trump competition? Who can be the most anti-Trump on this panel?
Bridget and Jez, we're off the box. Simon, anyone tuning in right now might look at those numbers and be a little bit alarmed about how far ahead Donald Trump is. Just make sense of that for us.
Sure.
What do you mean alarmed? Maybe I don't understand exactly what ABC News Australia is, but aren't you supposed to pretend to be impartial about that?
I do actually know women, to Sarah's earlier point, who have been pressured by their husbands to vote the same way. And a lot of that is happening in evangelical circles, where the idea of, male control of the household has been on the rise in recent years.
Again, much of the analysis from that person sounds like feminist theory, or it could be like on some feminist blog or something. A lot of this seems pretty detached from who is going to get to 270 electoral votes.
I'm pointing out this county because this is the county in America with the highest share of Puerto Rican-born people. Nearly 1 in 5 people in Osceola County.
This county is very interesting, especially in light of the comments we just heard earlier on this stream.
And then you had this kind of hate fest.
Plus with those jokes from Tony Hinchcliffe and so many people freaking out about it.
This is actually a county that Joe Biden won by nearly 14 percentage votes. We have 70% of the vote in there, so it'd be hard for her to get back to that level that Joe Biden won it in. So that's it.
Donald Trump won this county. The county in America with the most Puerto Ricans in it. Again, the jokes, the New York City rally that was going to derail everything.
Comedian Tony Hinchcliffe speaking at a Donald Trump rally in New York City. While he says it was a joke, a number of Puerto Rican stars, including Bad Bunny, Ricky Martin, as well as lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, expressed concern over the comment.
Because of that Puerto Rico joke, the county with the most Puerto Ricans voted for Trump.
Many New Yorkers saw through Donald Trump's claim that he was a good businessman. Of course, he has had at least 4 bankruptcies, probably more. And so the question as to whether or not he's a good businessman really should be on the table. One of the core...
That is crazy. Trump not being a good businessman is one of the more pathetic takes there is. You do not have to bat 1,000 to be great in business, which Trump obviously is.
Donald, good to have you with us.
Well, thank you, Steve.
And congratulations again for being on the billionaires list.
Oh, good.
What do we know about the national vote as it stands?
Well, it looks like Kamala Harris will win the national vote by about just over 1%. Now,
is that right? We'll win the national vote. What actually happened?
We also have won the popular vote.
Early days, for sure, but that is the projection of the New York Times at the moment, that she will win the nationwide vote, but only by just over 1%. And that gives a question mark, is that enough?
So it seemed around this time in the stream, there were some negative signs for Kamala, at least some recognition that she was not sweeping the electoral map. So as you can see there on screen behind him, they go over some data in terms of how different populations were voting, and we get a very funny reaction in a second here.
Jeremy, Bridget, there's some interesting numbers.
Casey, indeed. Julia, what do you make of what you're seeing there?
This is completely fascinating. And the fact that women are turning towards Trump, college women turning towards Trump, not something that I would have predicted given the concern about reproductive rights at all.
That is so funny. I could probably watch that clip a few times over. She just seems stunned that the dad is not coming in as she would have thought. Again, as in my opinion, a lot of her analysis sounded more like feminist theory.
We're joined by Donald Betts, a former Democrat state senator for Kansas, who's in Kansas right now. Donald Betts, welcome. Great to talk to you.
This guy tries to claim Kamala's doing well in Kansas, of all places.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You'll be watching those numbers very, very closely. How are you feeling right now, Donald?
Yeah, right now the numbers are up in Kansas.
So it's on screen. Kansas, Trump is winning, and well, we'll see what he says here. Let's check this out.
You know, they call Kansas the bellwether state, where, you know, you throw something at Kansas, if it sticks, then, you know, it's good to go. And right now, Kansas is leaning Kamala Harris.
Quite funny, because just a short time later in the stream, this happened with Kansas.
He's also won the state of Kansas. It has 6 votes as well.
That wasn't even an hour after those comments.
Okay, well, here's the next question. If Donald Trump wins, will things get better or worse?
Well, to be blunt, they'll get worse.
Bro.
401ks and retirement accounts are soaring, and the stock market is setting record highs. Almost every day we're going record highs, and yet we're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs. So it's turned out that Trump was right and they were wrong.
You know, the tariffs are going to harm U.S. consumers. They're going to raise prices. They're going to have flow-on effects for other countries. You know,
so many people were so convinced these tariffs were going to mess everything up. A lot of people, though, lately are saying maybe these aren't such a bad idea.
The stock market is at record highs. I know not everybody lives by the stock market, but I also drive around. I don't see a country in a depression at all. I see people out there just living their lives. And I would have thought, and I got to own it, that these tariffs were going to sink this economy by this time, and they didn't.
The tariffs, coupled with a bunch of other stuff Trump is doing, I think, has been like appropriately exercising a lot of leverage that America has.
The news that's just crossed on Twitter is that Jen O'Malley-Dixon, who you know with the Harris campaign, has sent out a note to staff saying, we always knew this was going to come down to the blue wall. We always knew that, and we feel confident, we feel good. So word from the Harris.
The blue wall.
We have a major projection. CNN projects that Donald Trump will win the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
We have breaking news where Trump is now the projected winner in Michigan, part of the so-called blue wall.
We can make this projection now because CNN projects that Donald Trump has won Wisconsin. You can see right there, currently ahead by 30,000 votes with 99% of the vote in.
Like, if he'd given her more time to run, more of a primary to be able to establish herself, without doubt she would have been in a better position.
But one of the reasons, Jeremy, that Joe Biden...
You can't use that excuse when you did essentially nothing for the first month.
...stayed on for so long was the fear that Kamala Harris couldn't win. He didn't pass her the torch earlier because of that concern. Could a black woman win the presidency? Could a black woman win the Rust Belt states that I won?
I mean, Biden catching some criticism there that Biden didn't want to pass the torch because he never thought Kamala could win the Rust Belt. I've never heard Biden say that. I mean, maybe he thought that. I don't know. So this is another guest they had on. This is some type of anti-Trump Republican. It sounds like. It's just weird how a lot of these election streams seem to have a lot of Republicans that do not like Trump.
And so it really was the Republicans to lose. And the only reason why it's this close and that we don't know the answer to it is because of the fact that Donald Trump is so polarizing. He is so toxic in many ways.
The election's not so close. It's really not close at all. And Trump is a net positive to the Republicans. Obviously, he's proven that for the last 10 years? Come on.
When they got into the voting booth, again, we still don't know the outcome, but I do think a lot of it has to do with, okay, well, I approve of the Republicans on policy, not necessarily Trump himself, but because they just are been so disappointed by what the Biden-Harris administration has done.
If that were even remotely true, then J.D. Vance, who's MAGA, would not be the leading candidate right now in every poll for 2028 nominee. It'd be somebody else. It'd be somebody like Paul Ryan, I don't know, Mitt Romney. It wouldn't be J.D. Vance.
Donald Trump, the disgraced one-term, twice impeached, criminally convicted president who was widely seen as an unelectable pariah after he incited a deadly insurrection.
Tell us how you really feel, dude.
Nobody thought that he could become the Republican nominee again, much less seeming to be on the precipice.
It wasn't nobody. It was maybe at like liberal elite dinner parties. Oh, Trump is so bad. It wasn't nobody. There was still a massive Trump base that really never left. Even like during the times 2021, 2022, Trump still had a lot of support.
Tonight, former President Donald Trump took center stage in Florence, taking aim at several issues.
Just not as much as he has now. I think that'd be fair to say. So here they're going over some of the numbers from the campaign. In this instance, it's just that Kamala did not do that well with women compared to Democrats in years past.
The gender gap is smaller than 2020, according to the exit polls.
So there are going to be questions about gender and race coming out of all of this, including whether there is what they used to refer to in American politics as the Bradley effect, that an African-American candidate...
And then this guy gives, I would say, a ridiculous take on why that may be true, that Kamala did not do that well.
A candidate of colour does more poorly at the actual election than they did in the opinion polls because some people are just quietly racist and they won't pull the lever in the privacy of a booth, but they will tell a pollster they'll vote for the black candidate. Maybe there is a gendered Bradley effect working against Kamala Harris here.
Or maybe Trump is just better than Kamala. What about that theory? I would love some of these networks to just start saying that. Like, I think their ratings would go way up. I don't know if this is exactly correlated, but recently Jimmy Fallon had Greg Gutfeld on his show.
Talk 1.7 million viewers. That's up 36% compared to a week prior.
But the second half of the show usually dips. It went up when Greg went up.
When Greg went out there.
Kind of an interesting meeting of like a left-wing talk show host and a right-wing talk show host. And the ratings were spectacular. I think a lot of these liberal networks, if they would just say, Trump's popular, that's why he won, I bet you their ratings would go way up. So we are now just moments after they added Georgia to the Trump column on their stream.
Casey, Bruce, can we come back to you? How do you characterise Donald Trump?
I'm sorry, how do I?
How do you characterise him?
I agree with Nick. He is an authoritarian, and he knows what stopped him from accomplishing his agenda in the first term, and he's going to avoid those mistakes. Loyalty will be the first rigor of anyone in his office.
It should be. Loyalty should be high up on the list.
You can argue all you want and discuss it, but when the boss says this is what we're going to do you have a problem doing what the boss says they're going to do? You always have two choices. You can quit or you can execute the plan. This concept of doing what you want to do because I don't think he's right, throwing banana peels, you get fired in America, you get fired at every company, and the fact that all these people who he fired in the first term say, oh, I don't like him anymore, this is a famous disgruntled employee, duh.
If you got a bunch of people in the cabinet that work against the interest of the president, that's not checks and balances. It's ironically also not democracy. If you vote for somebody, you expect his cabinet to be working with him.
You know, there was an Essential poll out today which showed that a lot of Australians actually, while they didn't like Trump, they liked a lot of his policies. And I think we need to start thinking about why are people attracted to economic policies which have been shown time and time again to be ineffective and to actually damage people, and how can we better help those people who are being affected by globalisation?
What about Trump term 1? I've said this before. First time in a long time where there was a noticeable uptick in median wages. What, people aren't, that's harmful to people? More money for the average person? That statement was incredible.
Do you have any indication of who is likely to staff up
a national security team for Trump and Mark II, where it seems like the criterion is less expertise and more personal loyalty to Donald Trump.
Would you say that about a Democrat, about Barack Obama? Do you think Barack Obama wanted a bunch of people in there that weren't like loyal to his agenda? It has to be a mix. It has to be competent plus agrees with the MAGA agenda.
But you cannot disagree with the fact that she has been judged with a far more exacting standard than her opponent on just about every metric that there is. I mean,
are you kidding me? Donald Trump is criticized by far more than anybody on earth, and for the last decade.
Former President Donald Trump has been ranked as the worst president in office during the last 150 years and the fourth worst overall. That's according to a C-SPAN survey that includes the assessments of about 142 historians and professional observers of the presidency.
You know, like her getting to power that way, if there was a bloke that had like served all that time and been prosecutor and been vice president, wouldn't you naturally assume that authority would be yours, that should rest upon your shoulders?
Yeah, the 45th president of the United States will become the 47th president of the United States. On that inaugural platform on January the 20th, 2025, it'll be Donald Trump that'll take the oath of office. I think Alaska is a formality. Donald Trump has won.
Former President Donald Trump is projected to be the 47th president of the United States of America. It would be the first time since Grover Cleveland and the second time ever a president has won 2 non-consecutive terms.
This is a more emphatic victory, it looks like, than he won in 2016. Why? Because he's got so many more votes nationwide.
There's a really good chance, once Alaska chips in here, Michigan stays the way it is, Arizona stays the way it is, Nevada stays the way it is. You're at 312. Right. That's an electoral landslide, as they say, okay?
At the moment, he is leading the popular vote, the nationwide popular vote. That is something that did not happen in 2016. Hillary Clinton got 3.
Let's go. But anyway, with that said, I'll finish the video there. Thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe. Leave a comment. I will see you in the next video.